Okay, so here we go. So this is going to be the first of what I hope is a weekly Google Meet. And what my plan is to meet with students once a week, either on usually on Monday, but if there's a holiday on Monday or if there's no school, then on Tuesday, like today. So if everything goes well and my plan goes as I want it to, we will meet again next Monday. And if you're available to join me, please do. If not, I will record the meeting and I will post the meeting in our activities so that you can see an explanation of each activity. Because my goal each week is to cover the activity that we are doing that week. So, for example, today I'm going to focus on Unit 1, Activity 2, which is our activity for this week. But before I do it today, I just want to talk a little bit about previous things in the class, the previous activity. And so if I go up into submissions and if I hit assignments, you're going to see all of the assignments that you have done so far this semester. So you'll see the diagnostic writing assignment. You'll see journal 1.1. You'll see portfolio 1.1 and then journal 1.2. We're not worried about that yet. I'm going to talk about that later. That's for today's and this week's activity. But you should have already submitted your diagnostic writing assignment and your first journal and portfolio entry. If you have not submitted one of these, then your goal should be to go back and finish that assignment before you move on to Unit 1, Activity 2. You want to do the course in order, and you want to make sure you don't miss any of the activities. I will say this too. The St. Michael's office and administration is taking hybrid attendance and submission more seriously this semester. So if you've already taken a hybrid course, the way that we take in assignments has changed. They expect you to submit at least one assignment each week or else you are marked absent. So if you have not submitted any assignments yet, you were marked absent for all of last week. And the vice principal is looking into students who are going a whole week without submitting something, and she's trying to contact them to see if everything is okay. I will try to contact you as well too if you're not submitting assignments. And so just to let you know, if you wait too long to submit assignments or if you get too far behind, they can take you out of the class because they have students on waiting lists that they want to put into the class that want to do the work. So this is nothing to anyone. This is nothing personal to anyone in the meet. And in this class, in my OLC class, most of the students are doing very well and have already submitted all 3 of these assignments. But I'm just letting you know that if you are not submitting assignments, you want to do it as soon as possible and make sure that you show your teachers and the office that you're going to be doing work each week. Okay, so that's number 1. The second thing that I want to say is I will give you feedback. You'll see a little link. So for example, I've given feedback to everyone that has submitted their diagnostic writing assignment. So you'll see a little link here that'll say view unread feedback. And of course, I can't show it to you because I can't give myself feedback. So, but you'll see a little link right here under evaluation status. And if you haven't already, make sure you click on that link and read what I had to say about your diagnostic writing assignment. Most importantly, if I wrote anything about you not submitting it correctly, you want to make sure that you fix that by the time you submit other assignments. The school board requires you to submit all assignments using Google Docs. So you have to type and edit all of your Google Docs assignments, all of your assignments in Google Docs, and then share the Google Doc with me and upload the document to the Dropbox. Now, most of you did that perfectly well, but I did have to give some comments to students about not receiving a link to the Google Docs, or when I checked the Google Docs, there was the Google Doc was telling me that the text in the Google Doc was copied and pasted, and so I can't accept, or I can't grade work that that was not typed and edited entirely in Google Docs. I can't grade work that's been copied and pasted. So just keep that in mind. I'm just letting everyone in both of my classes know. That's the reason we did the diagnostic writing assignment, is so that I could get to know you a little bit better and to make sure that all students knew how to submit an assignment. So if you have any trouble with that, please let me know so we can get that fixed. You will not see feedback from me for your journal entry or your portfolio entry yet. I will give you feedback for that later this week. You'll start seeing feedback for that today and tomorrow. But when you see feedback, you'll see again another button here that'll say View Unread Feedback, and you can click on it and you can see what I have to say. When it is an assignment that is being graded and you're getting a mark for the assignment, you'll see when you click on the feedback, you'll see not just my words, you'll also see your grade on the assignment. And then if you have any questions about my feedback, just let me know. Send me an email or ask me in a Google Meet, and I'm more than happy to help. But before I got into today's and this week's activity, I just wanted to make sure that everyone was comfortable with submitting and reading feedback. Okay, so now we are going to go back to the course homepage, and we're going to take a look at Unit 1, Activity 2, which is our goal for this week. And it's going to be all about reading comprehension and reading strategies. And so I usually in the activity, in the announcement, I'll try to give you a little explanation. So I say, you will learn about reading strategies and then practice using them. Make sure you have a full understanding of the reading strategies in this activity, as you will have to demonstrate your understanding of them on the midterm exam. So not only will you have to show me that you understand what you learn on your assignments, but keep in mind that there's a midterm and a final exam where I'm going to ask about what you're learning as well. So I think it's a really good idea if you're taking notes, which is something that they suggested that you do in Unit 1, Activity 1. So whether you type your notes or whether you write your notes, that's completely up to you, but I would definitely take notes as you're reading through the activities. At the ending of this activity, there's going to be one assignment. So last week there was 2 small assignments. There was a journal and a portfolio. This week, there's just one journal entry. And what I'm going to ask you to do in that journal entry is to answer questions which require you to discuss your own use in your own life of the reading strategies that are covered in this activity. And the goal is to submit that journal entry by Friday, by the ending of this week. Yes, Heba, go right ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Derek. How are you?
Very
I
good.
have a question. If I do assignment after due date, we can send it. There's no problem about that.
Yes, you can. That's a good question. You can submit it. And so absolutely, if you haven't done the assignments from last week, please still do them, and I will give you feedback. But if you try to submit an assignment 2, 3 weeks after, then it's hard for me to accept it because I've already given feedback and given grades to other students. So it's hard to grade your assignment. Does that make sense?
And yeah, about 1 day, 2 day.
Oh, yeah.
Only.
If you're 1 or 2 days late, okay, I'll tell you, this is gonna be a secret, but it's not really a secret because I'm saying it right into my recording here. The due date is Friday, right?
Yeah.
I know some students tell me that they have very busy lives from Monday to Friday, and they
Like
don't.
me,
Yeah,
Mr.
okay. So they have very busy lives. They work very hard. They have work. They have full-time jobs. They have family. And so I know that some students need the weekend to finish an assignment. So if you don't submit this journal entry, 1.2, on Friday, February 20th, I'm not going to worry too much, right? But if you don't submit it by the following Monday, then I'll say, okay, wait a minute. Now I'm probably going to email you, and the school board's probably going to send you an email automatically saying you didn't submit that assignment. So if you need a couple extra days, that is no problem with me. But if you go more than like a week, then there's a problem. And so what I would say is if we start a new activity, like today we're starting Unit 1 Activity 2, if you have not completed Unit 1 Activity 1, you probably want to send me an email and say, look, I didn't get a chance to finish it. Can you give me an extra day? And I will probably say, yes, no problem. But if you don't contact me, and if you don't respond when I contact you, and if a week goes by and you haven't submitted something, then I can't really accept it. So I hope that makes sense. Okay.
Thank you for answering my question. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, no problem. Aya, did you have a question?
Yeah, how are you, Mr.? I have a question about the question in the midterm. What kind of the question? If you have any example from last semester, can you send to us to see that
Well,
kind?
it's interesting that you ask that. This is
Yeah.
the first time I've taught OLC in a while, so I don't have an example from last semester. But I will say this: there are two main things, or three things that we will do.
Okay.
There are three things that we will do in Unit 1 that will be on your midterm test. There will be reading comprehension and reading strategies, which you're learning this week.
From this week, yes.
Yeah, so you're going to have to show me that you can read something on the
Yeah,
midterm
and
exam.
answer the question, right?
Yes. And then
Okay.
you'll also have to show me that you can write what we call a information paragraph. We're going to talk about that later. And you're also going to have to show me that you can write an opinion, so that you
Paragraph.
can yes. And so those are three things I can tell you right now without even having written the midterm exam. But what I will say is your midterm exam is going to be after the March break. And so what I will do is I will do like an activity, like I think like it's Unit 1 Activity 5 or something like that. I will make an activity where there won't be any assignments. It'll just be a review. And I will post that, and I will give it to you more than a week before the final exam. Like you'll have the whole March break actually. And so I'll give you an explanation of what will be on the midterm exam, and I will give you practice questions. Okay. But I can't really do that right now because we haven't even got through all the material yet. Okay.
Yeah,
But,
just the questions.
yeah. But yeah. So I hope that helps. Okay.
Yeah, now we have a opinion paragraph, and paragraph answer the question,
Mm-hmm.
and also a paragraph about what you said.
Well, I can tell you in Unit 1 is going to be the focus for your midterm exam. And so Unit 1 has reading comprehension and reading strategies. It has information paragraph, and it has opinion writing. Those are our three main topics. Now, there might be something else that we cover along the way, and you'll find out as we go. But those are the three that I can think of. You asked for an example. Those are the three that I can think of that are for sure going to be on your midterm.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yep, no problem. Okay. All right, so I appreciate the questions. I'm going to get back into the activity here and see if I can show you what it's like. And so if I click on Unit 1 Activity 2, and you can click the link right here, or you can go up to the coursework and you can find Unit 1 Activity 2 up here. But I always give you a link so you can jump right in. So if we go to it, and I'll open it up on the main screen here, and I'll see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay. All right. So this is going to be Unit 1 Activity 2. All the activities in the course have the same structure. They have a minds on, which is the introduction. They have the action, which is the lesson. And they have the consolidation, which usually has the assignment for the week. Don't skip right to the assignment. I tell that to all my classes. If you don't go through the minds on and the action part, you're probably not going to understand the assignment, and you're definitely not going to be reading the material that you need to know for the midterm and the final exam. Okay. But if we take a look here, the whole activity is going to focus on reading comprehension strategies. So strategies, things that you can do to be a better reader. And so I'll skip down here a little bit. It does a little introduction here where it talks about what they mean by reading comprehension strategies. But when we get down to the action, they're going to talk about different things that you can do to be a better reader. And one of them is to search for clues. So they're going to give you an example here of an image, and they're going to ask you, what do you think is happening? And so based on what you see, they're going to ask you to describe what you think is happening. And they're going to ask you to use your notebook, and they're going to give you some questions. And usually in the activity, when they give you questions, they will also show you a suggested answer. I would strongly recommend that you try to write the answer yourself first and then look at the answer, just to make sure that you're trying on your own, just to make sure that you're using the strategy yourself before you look at the answer. So in this case, they're going to ask you, what do you think is going on in the image, and what questions do you have? And then you can kind of see examples of what the teacher would write as an answer. So it's going to continue on and talk about the importance of clues and finding things when you're reading or when you're looking at an image. That's something I will point out in this course, is that we will do a lot of reading where you're reading words, but you also have to be able to understand images. And so what we call graphic texts. So that will be something that we will talk about as well too. When you look at something that has a combination of pictures and words, you have to show that you can understand that as well too. If we continue on here, it'll talk more about clues and about how you can identify clues and use images to help you figure out what is happening. Again, whenever it says notebook, it's asking you to take notes. So that means you can type out your notes in a Google Doc, or you can write out your notes. You don't have to, anything that says notebook, you don't have to give to me. It's just something so that you're learning the material and you're practicing. Okay, so we continue on here, and it's going to talk about words like form, purpose, details, predictions, and connections. And all of these words are going to help you understand how to read better, how to use reading strategies better. And then specifically, they're going to move into the second major reading strategy called sorting. And it will go through how you can sort when you're reading and how you can identify things that are important in what you're reading. And they'll give you an example here. They'll give you an example of an employee performance review. So if you click on this, it's an example of an employee being reviewed by their boss. And it's going to talk about the positives and negatives of his performance at work. So they're going to ask you to take a look at this and read this. And then after you've read it, they're going to ask you to think about it and answer some questions. They'll give you some more things that you can read. So they've got a little explanation on how to blow a bubble with gum, which I cannot do. And it will give you some directions and explanations. And it will tell you a recipe for crispy baked chicken fingers, which I do like. I like chicken without the bones, so that's good for me. So it's going to ask you to take a look at two instructions, and they have the instructions down here, and then they'll ask you to make notes in your notebook showing that you understand and you can identify important details in the instructions. And then at the end, you're going to try to put all of this together. And if we continue to go down here, they're going to ask you to take a look in your notebook here once more, and they're going to ask you to take a look at some photos and some captions and try to explain what is going on. And so it's going to ask you to identify form and purpose, details. They're going to ask you to make a prediction about what you think will happen in the future or what you think is happening in the picture. They're going to ask you to make connections, identify symbols and images. They're going to ask you words I already know. So can you identify words in the text that you already are familiar with that can help you understand words that you don't know? Questions that you can ask yourself, and then it's going to ask you to sort and order the information to better understand. And then, as always, with the practice, they're going to give you suggested answers. But again, I would try to answer all of these questions before you look at the answer, just to test yourself. All of that is practice. All of that goes in your notebook. All of that is asking you to apply reading strategies, to read different types of texts, whether they be pictures, whether they be pictures with words, whether they just be writing. You'll look at a couple of different types of texts, and you'll show that you can apply reading strategies like sorting, like predicting, like making connections. You'll see if you can do these things on your own. And again, you'll have the help of answers. Now, when we get to the bottom, this is where we usually see the assignment, right? So it'll have a review of the reading strategies, and it'll ask you to click here and to fill out a survey. This is the survey right here. And it's going to ask you questions about yourself and your own reading skills and whether you use these reading strategies in your own life. You might be surprised. You might not have thought of these reading strategies before, and you might already be using them when you're doing reading in your own life. Like, for example, I definitely make notes when I read. I make notes all the time, even if I'm reading something, that's not a book, it's something simple. I tend to like to write notes. Okay. But you're going to do this survey. Again, click this button and you'll see a survey pop up that looks just like this. And then at the very end, we keep going down here, it's going to ask you to write a journal entry. And so you've already done a journal called 1.1. This is going to be journal entry 1.2. And it's going to ask, what reading strategies have you learned so far in this course? So you can identify reading strategies that you learned in this activity. So it's forcing you to kind of make notes here and show them to me, right? Which of these reading strategies is new for you? Which of these reading strategies have you used a lot before? And when you completed the strategies review survey, what was the one area that you thought you could improve on? So once you've completed this activity, you can fill out this journal entry and submit it to me. So just a reminder on how to do that. You would click here, and you'll see that it opens the Dropbox, okay? And you can open the activity right here. And then it'll say, and then it'll say, make a copy in Google Docs. And you click right here, make a copy. And then if you want, you can change the title to your own name. You don't have to say copy of, you can say Derek's, I could put my name in here. And then I'm just gonna put in the date, and I'm gonna write in my entry. And I'm gonna type in my answers to these questions right here. So the journal 1.2, these are the questions you're answering, and you're answering them right in this Google Doc. And then when you're done, what you do, like pretend I've typed out my answers here, I'm gonna go share, and I'm gonna share it, you're gonna share it with me, but I'll put my email address in here. You're gonna make me an editor. You're going to copy the link. You're going to share it with me. And then you're going to go back to the Dropbox right here, which you can go submission and assignments. But right here is the Journal 1.2 Dropbox. You're going to copy and paste the link into comments. You're going to go add a file, Google Drive. And it's going to take its time here. Come on. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to see, here's my template right here. And I'm going to go upload. And then I'm going to go submit. And then I'm going to go done. And then you'll see I've submitted the diagnostic writing assignment. I've submitted the journal 1, the journal portfolio 1.1, and now I've submitted journal 1.2. So at that point, I would be done my work for this week and I would be all caught up. I would have submitted everything that I need to submit. And that's it. That's everything that you have to do for this week. I'm going to turn off the recording, and then if anyone has any questions, I'll take them.